I just came up with that just right now. I think it's because I had a green drink back there. So again, think of your questions. We're going to start with some of the horror stories about mom judging. Would it help you to know the moms in the room, maybe the ages of the kids, and dads too? So just give me an idea, how many of you have, let's say, from infant to 2 years old? Oh, wow. That's good to know. How about 2 to 5? How about more than one kid? Okay, just making sure. How many of you have 2 kids? How many of you have 3 kids? 4? 5? Get out. Stand up right now. Let's give her a round of applause. Right now. Just because. 5 kids. How many of you have kids between the ages of 5 and 10? Goodness gracious, you guys are busy. Over 10? Really? Teenagers? How old's your oldest? 19. Anybody have anybody older than 19? How old is yours? Stand up, we're going to give you a round of applause too. All right, so now we have an idea. That was helpful, right? So now we know who we're talking to. All right, so Rebecca, we're going to start with you. We asked our Today Parenting team to share their experiences with mom judging. So do us a favor and talk to us about some of the responses that we've received on today.com. I know this is a big one, a big topic. And what are some of the biggest things parents out there feel judged for? What would you say?
Yeah, I think the question is, what don't parents feel judged for? It's really anything and everything. I mean, newsflash, y'all, moms can be super judgy. I think no one's surprised by that. Really, what I've learned from reading through the responses on the Today Parenting team is that there's no perfect way to be a parent. Whatever choices you make, you will be judged. You will feel judged at some point in your life, in your parenting life. Let's see, some of the things, just like a partial list of things people have felt judged for, starting with pregnancy, but starting at birth, having a C-section, having an epidural, having a natural birth, breastfeeding in public, formula feeding in public, letting your child cry in public. One mom was judged for letting her child carry a teddy bear in a store, giving your child a pacifier, letting your child stay up past 7:30, waking your child up after 8 o'clock. Really, no matter what
Pretty
you
much
do.
breathing.
Healthy.
Even waking up for nap, like waking your child up after a certain amount of time. So let him sleep.
Yes, never wake up for me. But wake him every, X hours to feast. So pretty much whatever you do, you're going to be judged. I mean, so should we just all crawl into a hole? Obviously not. I mean, what also is emerging on the Today Parenting team is that I think we're all ready to just be cut it out. Everyone, cut it out. It's time. We're all here in this room, and we're all here on the Today Parenting team, ready to take a stand against mom judgment and stand up for each other, because we have all been there, and we're all going to be judged. So we're all in it together.
It's a good start. Thank you. So you jumped in, Hillary, and Haley, you can jump in too. You're both mothers. Why do you think mom judging is such an important issue for you guys? I mean, you guys have decided to kind of tackle this one.
I think I've had a pretty public life, so everything that I do feels kind of judged or picked apart, and the whole world gets to know about it. I thank God I have my sister and a good group around me that I feel like I can be open and honest with and share with and stuff. But I felt judged by the amount of weight I gained when I was pregnant and how fast that took me to lose it, and whether I remember a time where Luca had 3 ear infections back to back, and when they put him on antibiotics, and my mom's like, "You didn't try essential oils first?" I mean, no, I'm sorry, I don't know anything. But I did the best I could, or starting to introduce formula, multiple things, and I think I just felt inspired. I was one of the first. I didn't know anyone that had a baby when I had a baby, so I didn't have a huge group of people to learn from. You already feel like you're on an island. I think whether you have a newborn or you have 3 kids, it can be a lonely place. And instead of judging one another and having moms come at you with such a heavy hand sometimes of knowing everything. And I think a lot of the times it starts from a good place. Every mother wants to be the best mother that they can be. So when they share something with a friend, sometimes it just comes off too aggressive, and that doesn't work for that person.
That's a good point. I think you're right. When you're pregnant, everybody wants to give you advice about you. Probably you're coming off of this. So it starts in a good place, but then it gets judgy, right?
And you're like, what worked for me that didn't necessarily work for Haley, even though we're sisters in the same family. Like, I had a boy, she had a girl, we had totally different births, you know? It's like, just supporting one another and trying not to force something that worked for you.
And Haley, what about you, already in?
Well, it's funny because being such a new mom, you know, you kind of address like the judgment you feel even before you're a mom, you know, when you're still pregnant and you're still growing your baby.
I remember
you know,
everyone being like, what are you gonna name it? And you're like,
I was like, I don't know. And then everyone's like, don't tell anybody the name because everybody's gonna have an opinion about it. I was like, oh my God, do I tell the name? Do I not tell the name? Like, you know, you're just constantly like in this push and pull of, do I do this? Do I do that? And you're overwhelmed and it's so new and, you know, you're trying your best, but
your body's being occupied by it.
yeah, just everything is a little different, you know?
Yeah.
For me though, I think when we first heard about, you know, what Similac was doing with this campaign, it felt important for me to get involved and for Hillary because, you know, we focus so much on bullying with kids and really like we're women that are bullying each other. And to be able to bring awareness to that is really special. And even being a new mom, I feel like it's my responsibility to stop that behavior before I even become involved in that as well, you know? And being able to bring attention to that early, I think is really important.
It's funny, she mentioned names, or you did. I remember when I was pregnant with the twins, I remember getting the ultrasound and we found out it was a boy girl, you know, and the ladies, you know, putting the jelly, the cold jelly, it was actually warm that day. I was like, ooh, this was good. Anyway, so she's doing that. She's like, oh, you have a girl, do you have a name? And in my head, I knew we were going to name her after our grandparents. Clara is my husband's grandmother and Josephine is mine. And she goes, whatever you do, don't name that kid Josephine. That is the ugliest name. She's like, I don't know why people want to name their daughter Josephine. And I was like, well, I'm going to name my daughter Josephine. And she's like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry, you know. So, but it's true. I mean, so it started in utero, the judging. So let's talk about, just really quickly, give us a moment, perhaps, any specific moments that stick out for you, for the mom judgment, so that nobody else ever does it again. Was there a specific moment that something happened or something that really bothered you?
Do you have one?
You mentioned the napping, which I think is interesting.
Oh, yeah.
That was big. I forgot about that.
I think it just, like, I mean, I took a lot of mommy classes, like classes where babies had all been born in the month of March, you know, so all the moms are going through the same thing. And sometimes it happens in just casual conversation. I'm sure you guys all know where all of a sudden someone says one thing and you're all of a sudden like, did I do that wrong? How did I, you know, you're like just so, it makes you feel so insecure and you're like.
It may not be directly judgy, but just, you know, how some of us moms, if we got one thing right, we must announce it to the whole world, right? And
Yeah.
oh, well, I tried this, and, you know, my daughter never fell sick for the next 6 years. And then just hearing this very generalized, stereotyped, pedestalized view of her motherhood just immediately makes you shrivel. So we may not directly judge. You know, some of us are more sophisticated, we kind of do it indirectly. So I think anytime we kind of elevate ourselves and think of ourselves as superior, we need to just take a step back and remember with humility how we were, you know, on the bathroom floor, not knowing what to do with our kids, on our hands and knees, and our kid is beating us with something. So we should just remember not to, you know, think of ourselves as grandiose. We all love those grandiose moments we posted on Facebook right away. But you know, there's a mother out there who's struggling with the very thing you just showed off about, you know? So just, and you're going to get right back into that place of humility very soon. So just remember that.
So I have a good moment where I needed to practice a little humility.
Yeah.
Okay.
So when my daughter was 8 weeks old, she turned into like just, I mean, she's a great baby, but she turned into like super baby, and she would go to bed. I think 8 o'clock is a late bedtime now. If you said 7:30, I feel like maybe it's a little late, but she likes to go down at 8 o'clock, and she literally is like a robot. She just shuts down at 8, and she was sleeping till 6 in the morning.
Oh, stop.
And everyone was like, you need to wake her up, you need to feed her in the night, you need to do a dream feed. And I was like, I don't know what's, you know, she's sleeping, like I don't want to mess with this. I was convinced to do a dream feed, and all of it went bad. Everything went bad. We went to 3 and 4 wakings in the night. And I was really kind of bragging, like, oh my God, she's sleeping till 6, like I'm killing it. And then I got hit with the 4 wakings in a night. So you're right.
You had nothing to do with it. You had nothing to do with her waking up, and you had nothing to do with her being a perfect sleeper.
Correct.
But we infuse ourselves into this, like into the mix, like we had something to do with this. And that's our, you know, our insecurity really. We want to control this.
Also, I remember she was such a good baby, but she just hadn't found her lungs yet, and Haley'd be like, she never cries, she's
Oh,
so
yeah.
And I was like, she doesn't want to cry yet. You just wait. And she'd like, I come over to
Did she find it yet?
yeah.
She found the line.
We all live our lives differently. We all live our lives the way we need to live our lives to make our lives work for us, right? We do the best thing for us. Just like with our career, we do the best thing that works for us. And no two people have the exact same journey. Zero. There are no two people on this planet that do every single thing exactly the same. So why should we feel like we all need to raise our kids in the exact way that everyone else is? And the same way that we feel a little bit of pressure when someone else is getting a job or when someone else lost the extra 5 pounds, or our bodies are different, our souls are different, our minds are different, and yet we all feel this pressure to have to raise our kids. And we say, we're going to do it just like, oh, you did that? Okay, I'm going to do just like this with a little bit. Oh, you're doing that? Okay, I'm going to do just like this, a little bit in, a little bit. And the next thing you know, you're influenced by so much that it becomes ridiculous. I have no idea how to parent. I left the hospital, and I swear to you, I asked the nurse that left us. I was like, there's no manual, not even like what I do today. Like, what should I do right now? Like, what do I do when I get home with this thing? Like, I never even had, what am I supposed to do? And they're like, nothing. They just sent us out and they started cleaning the room. I'm like, I thought I was going to be in the hospital for like 3 weeks. After 2 days, they're like, oh, I'm like, with the kid? They're like, no, with the kid. Here's the thing. And my parents always tell me, they're like, we raised you. You never wore a helmet. We never wore a seatbelt. I was like, I don't even know how I'm not dead. So the bottom line is your kid's not going to have a pacifier in 12th grade. And your kid's not going to be sucking her thumb when she's going into college. And I promise you, she won't have diapers when she's getting married. Like, it's all going to work out. We just need to take a breath and relax and realize that kids are just like anything else. They're all going to grow up on their own timeline. None of them are going to be stupid. They're all going to be okay. I swear. And if they are, just give them an iPad. My kid, I forgot to teach her how to count to 10. She learned it all on the iPad in Spanish, mind you. Stephanie and I were like, we never forgot. I like just forgot. We had a play date, and that kid counted to 10. And all of a sudden, our kid was like, 1. Oh my gosh. I was like, Stephanie, what are we doing? Where have we been? Gave her the iPad in 3 days. Literally, she kept it. Now, I'm sure I'll be judged for giving
I was
me
just about to say, that was Molly and Jenna saying that. I was over here beating myself up because I feel like I gave my 5-year-old, now 6-year-old, too much of the iPad, and you hear that it's bad. So it's one of those things where then I'm like, oh, well, Jenna didn't. Her kid can count 10, so then maybe my kid can. You know what I mean? The wheel is constantly going. So
You know, if they don't get the iPad, then they're behind in a lot of ways.
You can't win. You
I
can't
don't know
win.
if any mom in this room feels like their heads is constantly thinking of 100 million different things that they have done or need to do or needs to get, like, it's just, it never, ever, ever stops.
It's so
And
true.
then
Tell me
when-
this, you're right here, but is your mind in 12 other places? Of course it is. Let's dig into the science of this just a little bit, the science of mom judging, and then we'll get into some solutions, which I think we're already approaching. But why do you think we judge this way? And do you think social media has made it worse with tweeting and, you know, they call them the, keyboard warrior, where you can judge, especially for you, Jenna, for me, for you, when you're living a public life, sometimes it can make it even more brutal. But what do you think it is?
It's exactly what you said it is. Our life is on public display. I have a picture of, I was doing some kind of workout the other day, and I was sort of bench pressing little Quinn. And believe me, I'm as strong as anyone in this room. I'm not going to drop the kid, I promise you. I know she weighs like a -6 pounds, so I was just going like this. And yeah, I got a couple of nice comments, but I still got a couple, you should really be careful, and the neck needs to be in this. And I go, you're going to do it your way, and I promise you, the last thing I want to do is put my kid in harm's way. I'm going to do it my way.
Child, and you take care of yours.
Right, but if you start responding to all of it, you're going to make yourself absolutely crazy. But the more that we live our life on television and on public, and even just Facebooking, even just putting your stuff out on social media, you're just opening, the book up for people to judge you, which is fine. Everyone should have their own opinion, as long as you don't let it affect the way you are bringing your children up and the way you want to have your family at home. I think that's just the way it's going to be, and I don't think we're going to be able to stop that.
Is there a science to it? Can we nip this in the bud? I mean, is there something we can all do if we have these kumbaya moments all around the country? I mean, is there something?
As a psychologist, I'll just break it down. What I've noticed to be happening in early childhood, to all of us mothers, I think we were all raised on a heavy diet of not feeling fully worthy from within for who we are, and feeling like we could own our own sense of worth and our authorship around our life. And we grew up feeling like we needed to get approval from everyone else. And this is what we're doing with the motherhood journey. You know, we're trying to get approval for our mothering from the exterior world, and no one can ever fill that, you know, void. And we're doing it through our children, really. We're not really parenting. We're creating products and trophies and, you know, these beautiful poems to be pasted on a wall in a gilded frame, really to fill our inner worth. And I, as a psychologist, I write about this, that don't use your children to fill your inner lack. This is not their wall. You know, don't use them to finish your unfinished inner business. And I think this mommy judging comes from this place of inner scarcity, of inner lack. And I think we all are judges. I think we also need to acknowledge that. And the more we have compassion for our insecurities, for our limitations, that no one knows what they're doing. That's my pet peeve. People think as a psychologist, you know, oh, she must know. No one knows, because every moment is a new moment, right? So instead of being in our head in a constant state of anxiety, our children need our presence. They need us to be there with them, engage, iPad, you know, organic, non-GMO, it doesn't matter. They don't care about that. Our children need us to be fully present to them. And we can only be that when we're fully present to ourselves, not constantly, you know, whirring around in a dire need for control.
That was good. I was just going to pause and like chew on that a little bit.
That's why she was on Oprah.
Yeah. We're honored to have you. So then so knowing that, should we pull back from Facebook, like keep the pictures on Instagram, or?
I feel like I walk a fine line of how much I share. Obviously, I love my child so much, and everything he does I am obsessed with, you know, so I want to be a proud parent, and you know, but I also live where I get photographed every single day, you know, not by choice. And so they're posting his pictures, and I'm sure a few sites are blurring his face or whatever, but it's the whole experience that's so obnoxious for him to have to experience, you know. But people are seeing him anyway, so I do share pictures every once in a while. And I love Instagram. I mean, it's one of my biggest time wasters, I guess. You know, like when I need like a little 5 minutes, like I love to go on and see what my friends are doing, or people that inspire me, what they're up to, and you show a glimpse into your life. I mean, I really love it, but I don't know. I'm picky about how much I share, you know.
As a psychologist, is there a line between, I was listening to somebody the other day on the cruise say that when they don't go to Facebook anymore because it makes them sad, because they feel like everybody else's life looks so perfect. And come on, we all know that, you know, you post the first day pictures, but everything is so perfect when you look at Facebook. So,
but that's because by the time a picture makes it to Facebook, it has been photoshopped and
right,
cropped and
filtered,
and it's the best of 100 pictures, and it's only the best moments,
right,
and it's only the most exciting times. It's only when your kids are happy, and it's only when your kid doesn't have poop dripping down her leg because you like couldn't get back from the park in time because you need to go down one more time on the slide. Like all those things happen. It's the best of who we are is what Facebook looks like. And then that's a whole nother discussion. But then there's this element of, oh my gosh, I can't believe like Jeff Rossing got both of his kids out of the house by 8 o'clock and they're at a coffee shop. Like maybe it was 9 o'clock or maybe it was, who cares? But yes, there's this element of feeling.
I think it needs to have its place, and even in your children's lives, it has a wonderful place, but it has a place, and it has a bound, and I think we get sucked into that perfect world because that's what we want for ourselves, right? So the intention is good, but then we can go down this dangerous spiral of comparing and feeling lesser than. So know what Facebook is for. It's this artificial reality. It's not real. And take it for what it is, have fun with it, but then just know how to step back into your own authentic experience of your child, your life, and your struggle. And it's mucky, and it's muddy, and it's crazy, and it's dirty.
And it's awesome,
that's okay.
though.
Yeah. That's okay.
That's what makes it beautiful.
Right. That is what life is.
is there anything anybody avoids sharing, or that you think we shouldn't share? Anybody regret sharing anything?
Well, I try not to share anything that's unidimensional, right? Oh my, anything that just gives an idea that it's not multifaceted. So if I'm going to share a really proud moment, I'm going to say, guess what happened 2 minutes before? Or, you know, and this is what I forgot. Or, you know, so to give a balanced perspective, because Facebook isn't that. It just is this one layer of reality, which is misguided and misleading, I think.
Trying to give a real element.
Yeah, I like to feel like I'm part of sort of a Facebook resistance of parents, where rather than just posting these perfect moments, I try to make myself vulnerable, which is scary. But every time you do, every time you post something that's authentic and not perfect, you get this amazing reaction from all these people saying, me too, me too. I thought I was the only one. And that can be so powerful. I sort of feel like social media is the poison, but it can also be the antidote. because it's, it has this power to connect us if we take the risk of being authentic and real.
Use it positively. Yeah. We were talking about that a little behind the stage here, that we complain a lot about social media and how bad it is for our kids, and they're always on the iPhones and always worried about what other people are thinking, but at the same time, we do have these positive movements like this one that's there for our kids to use and for us to use if we get them involved in it. And I know for me, when I was a kid, we didn't really have those kinds of things. We didn't have these programs coming out saying, don't be mean to each other, be on each other's side. It doesn't matter how much you weigh,
You suffer inside, you suffer inside.
Yeah, there was kind of nowhere to go, and that is the positive side of social media. Is if you're encouraging your kids to be involved in the positive aspects of it, it can be a really wonderful tool.
But you also, just like you said, we all do this. My kid was pulling at her ear, so before pulling it out, you Google it. My kid pulling her ear, and you have 2,700 moms who are like, and then you're it all equals death, right? It does, but at the same time, 90% of how I'm parenting, or the questions I have, I first sort of go online just to see what other people kind of went through. My parents didn't have that. My mom had a computer, she barely had a phone. What are you talking about? She had to just make it work. She was just blind. Our parents did this. They blindly went through it. They raised kids. They, and somehow when it got dark, the kids were back inside, ready to eat, and then next day they dropped off to school, and somehow they came back alive, and that was the end of it. Yeah. But we use the tools that we're saying could sometimes hurt us to also help us, I think, at the same time.
I think it's up to us, like this forum today, to elevate the discussion, right? So we all feel this, we all have the inner critic within ourselves, plagued by it, we all do it to each other, but now what can we do to elevate and change the world? And I think talks like this do that. They create this awareness which sears through the consciousness and will change tomorrow. It will.
It'll definitely change my mindset. Don't you think so? The next time you're on Facebook or the next time you're talking to another mother, you kind of pull back a little bit with the judging. I think so. I want to bring in Ashley. Ashley, what is Ashley?
Yourself.
Yeah.
I'm not here.
Yeah. Think to yourself, why am I saying this? Am I saying this just to create an image of myself? Do I really need that?
Yeah.
Maybe I'll just go eat a bagel, What do I
Always
really
an option.
Just go to the gym. Do that big.
Ashley. There we go. All right, so Ashley Harris has been moderating. There's Ashley. Hi, Ashley. She's been moderating the conversation on social media. So can you kind of give us an idea what kind of questions you're getting from our social audience? Maybe sum it up in one or two questions, and then we'll get questions from everybody here.
All of the questions have been, how do I respond to the haters, right? So we have a question from a mom of one who said, I'm getting lots of flack for not having a second child. How do I respond to that? Everything has been, when I'm judged, what is the response? I think Angie Huff and I had a conversation this morning even about social media and do you stay silent? Do you respond? How do you not feed it? But
responding to the haters. That's a good question.
I have something about not having a second child right away, and I have a 3.5-year-old little boy, and my situation is a little different. I'm separated from my husband, and everywhere I go, when someone doesn't know who I am, they're like, "Oh, do you have children?" I'm like, "Yes, I do. One little boy, 3.5. It's time for the next. What are you doing? What are you waiting on?" It's like it's really nobody's business, whether I'm ready to have another child or not. Sure, I want siblings for Luca, but it's all so personal, and it's crazy how people will constantly, there's a way things are, when you get engaged, when's the wedding? Oh, you get married. Oh, when's the baby?
Instead of just being in the moment you're in.
Yeah, and there's constant pressure from the public about when the right timing is to do certain things because of the way that it's been done. And it's really easy, I think, to judge from behind a computer screen, and that's what you're always seeing, is these people having fights, they don't even know each other, so blah, blah, blah.
So how do we respond when it starts to get to us as a psychologist?
Yeah, what's the best way?
I always tell people that the person who's judging you, and this is a hard one to kind of get into this place of Zen, but let's experiment. The person who's judging you is really coming from a real place of lack. They're coming, that person happened to have 3 children so successfully, that may have been the only thing that came really easy to her, so she's like, oh, you only had 1. So you understand, it comes from your wisdom, and which really comes from your own sense of rootedness and confidence. I get that all the time, I have 1 child. So it comes from your own sense of rootedness, that you did what was authentic to your life, what made meaning and purpose for you. And they are operating from their sphere of influence, which is tiny and has nothing to do with you. Now, just because they wrote to you doesn't mean it has anything to do with you. They don't see you, they don't understand your life, and you just have to detach. You can learn from it perhaps, or elevate the conversation if you want to. But if you allow it to feed you and take you down, then you're going to constantly be looking for the next accolade or the next applause. They have nothing to do with it. It's just as simple as that. It's just like, cut the cord. It has nothing to do with you.
You have to go fill your cup in another way. It's not going to come from them.
But they are not even saying it at you. They're just operating out of their own lack of work. They just pulled you in, right? You should just say,
you're operating out of your own lack. That was good. All right, let's get
Wait,
the questions.
can I just say something, Dan and I sometimes do, and maybe I shouldn't be sharing this, but if I used to, before I had kids, whatever, it doesn't even matter. We get killed all the time as being a public figure. We get people that comment for whatever reason. So on Twitter, what I used to do when people would just say whatever for what I was wearing, or they didn't like my hair and they felt compelled to log on and go onto my thing and write a whole big, which takes like 20 minutes. Exactly. I follow them on Twitter. And the minute they see that I read it, that they actually got through to someone, you know how many times I've gotten someone to say, I probably shouldn't have read that. I didn't realize you guys actually read this.
Wow.
I'm sorry. I take it back. I'm sure you're going through the same thing. I must have gotten at least 15 different people. Now, that takes an obscene amount of time. I don't do that anymore since I've had children. But that's what I used to do. And the minute that they put a face or an acknowledgement that someone's on the other end reading this and it's just not going out into the sphere, that's when they sort of stopped it a little bit. That was just my little own personal
But it's the same way you teach
the bottom line is you don't respond to it.
Well, the same way you teach a child to understand what a bully is. A bully is a pained individual, right? A hurting child. And just in the same way we don't realize, the adults, we're all children inside, are just hurting children. And they just found a ready target and they're going to go for you. So it's the same syndrome. So as you teach your children to be stalwart, you have to become that.
That was really good. Wow. Let's take your questions. Let's start with you. Can you stand up and tell us your name? Why not?
Chrissy Patchney. It's actually just a follow-up because I think one of the responses you can make to the point of it not being about you is just to ask the person about their story. It's not about your insecurities. It's about the moment that they're in and what they have to share. So sometimes I found it helpful that if somebody's saying, oh, are you ready for number 2? You know, I'm not, but how did you do it? And kind of spinning it back on them to make it a positive and to break down those barriers and not so much about what I'm not doing and what they have done.
Good. Any other questions?
Simon Isaacs from Fatherly. So what's the role of dads as or partners or spouses in supporting the mother who feels judged?
I'll take this question.
Everybody hear this question? I like this. That's a good question.
No, I really won't take that.
Anybody?
Well, I would like to talk a little bit about it just because we're very new in this, and he's my fiance, he's not my husband yet, but when we found out we were pregnant, he actually went out and read all the books. I didn't read a single book. I had great mother examples in my life. My mom has been an amazing mother, my sister. I have lots of friends that are moms right now. And so really he was the one that kind of went out and read like everything from like the funny books to the more serious ones. And just showing that he was investing in it and taking this seriously was the best support for me. And then as we became parents and she arrived and everything is so insanely crazy, he just let me be right for a little bit. And that was honestly the best thing he could have done for me. Is he's like, however you feel, bless you. Whatever you want to do, or whatever you want to try, he was just like on my team. And I think for me that was the best way that he could support me, you know?
I think that just being a listening ear when a mom feels judged, like a husband or a partner or whatever, can just sit down and really listen to how you're feeling, because it's so hurtful as a mom. We do everything to do it right and to do the best we can do because we love our kids so much. We put so much pressure on ourselves that, you know, when you just need to have a little breakdown because someone made you feel like crap or you can't figure something out. I remember one time there was a picture that was on the cover of Star magazine of Luca crying because he hates haircuts, and there was a paparazzi taking his picture, and they put me and Luca, and he's like wailing. And by the way, he hates the paparazzi too. And they're like, C- mother. And I was with you. I was bawled. I was like, how on earth can they do this? This is so mean and hurtful. And I was actually having lunch with Luca's dad, who were very good friends and are a family forever, you know, and one of the guys, camera guys following me was like, how did it make you feel when you saw that cover, the thing of you on Star Magazine? Like, are you upset by that? Blah, blah, like right in front of my child on lunch on a Sunday. And we got inside and Mike was like, that is so mean, that must have really hurt your feelings. So just to acknowledge that our skin isn't thick and tough all the time is like, I think, a really good role for a dad or a partner to just stop and think about, you know, we're tough as nails, you know, like, but we're soft inside and it hurts, everything, you know.
Yeah. And I think we women also, just on another, to give it another element, we judge fathers, we mothers judge fathers, and fathers, you know, we keep them out of, you know, we want to be in control and we want to do it our way. And as it is, they're biologically slightly, you know, disadvantaged. They can't birth their own.
Yeah.
So they're always on the outskirts, and then we complain they're on the outskirts, and if they're in the inskirt, they're going, why you under? So we're always complaining about these men, and we don't allow it to be an inclusive experience sometimes.
This is very true.
And I think that can alienate the husband, and we just make it harder for ourselves. You know, yeah, they're imperfect, of course they are, but we give them control so that we can ease up on ourselves, right? It's not about being perfect all the time. We put undue pressure on ourselves as moms.
Well, I just left my daughter for the first time to come here. She's 4 months, and I left her with her dad. And by the way, I've been freaking out about it. I made a list this long about what time she eats, how much she eats, and I'm acting as if he hasn't been here and part of this experience from the very first day. And he finally just was like, no, I got this.
Look, he's nodding his head because he gets it.
Yeah, and you know what? She's been so happy. She's had the best day and a half with him, and it's good for both of them.
Yeah.
You know, you're right. And for me, yeah. It's freaking out.
He said he's freaking out too.
He's acting super cool about it, although he did call my mom over yesterday, so.
All right, we have time for one more question.
Hi, my name's Patrice. I have a question probably for Dr. Shefali. So I feel like these days the new thing is the absolute worst thing you can do for your children is to hover over them, the helicopter parent. That's like the worst thing. In your opinion, do you think that, is this like a new generation kind of setting up? Are we like the 2015 version of the helicopter parent in the 90s? You know what I'm saying? Are we sort of repeating mistakes of parents did, you know, for kids that were born like, you know, in the 80s and the 90s by judging each other? Do you think there's any real effects on kids?
I think, you know, we in this generation romanticize how we were raised. Oh, we were raised and we were just left for the wolves. I don't think that was very conscious either. So it just looks different, and the anxiety of parenthood just takes different forms. So we're seeing a new hyper-focused era of parenting because we have more access to our children, we have more control over them through all this, you know, all the cords, the umbilical cords now with social media become quadruple, right? You can follow them on FaceTime or whatever that app is, Find My Child app or whatever. Follow my child. I think it's made this anxiety, which has always been part of the parenthood journey, just at this crazy manic level, right? And now we're just putting it all out there on social media, so we're comparing, we're pitting each other even more. So the insecurities were always there. The insecurities existed in my mother and my grandmother and yours. But they kind of had no one to quench about, you know, quench with, just the neighbor down the street or over coffee. Now, you know, we're comparing constantly, so it's heightened.
So many outlets.
It's heightened, but we have become, you know, quite possibly we're teetering on the edge of out of control, and we need to kind of rein ourselves back in. Our children need our presence. They need our authorship over our own bodies and lives. They don't need insecure parents who compete all the time, make them products, race them to, you know, Harvard, Yale, or the next fancy schmancy whatever. They don't need gadgets, they don't need gifts, they need experiences, and they need your presence. And they need a mother who feels secure, at ease, happy, and present.
That was fantastic. Like, can you move in with me?
Can I ask a quick question about that though? Because so being a mom is new for me. What is helicopter momming? What does that mean?
I just feel like, you know, there's so many articles now that say, you know, there's a new generation of spawn, you know, right?
You're hovering over your kids.
They're 22.
Constant control.
It's a total stereotype, but about how, you know, like my mom parented me different from my little sister, right? She hovered over my little
Oh, okay. Yeah. Like coddling.
Overprotection,
Okay.
overindulging, overcontrol.
The pendulum is swung, but it seems like it's swung, I don't know, not really the opposite.
Like where people are kind of letting their kids just free fall a bit, or?
No, it's like calling a teacher to intervene, or it's like overstepping in the playground.
Interesting,
They're
okay.
saying that that's like, they say that that's sort of.
I feel like I will be the parent that would call it.
But that's.
First of all, after this is finished, feel free to mingle and talk, and you can actually eat, and we won't judge. You can stuff your face. I'm sorry. Yeah, I know we all like to chill. It's funny. So then I hope that this has. Do you feel a little bit better? I know I do. Next time somebody judges, I'm still going to say they're coming from a place of laugh. But hopefully feeling that. So I'm going to give you guys a challenge, and I'll start with you, of just one line or two, sentence or two, that you want us to walk away with. You have moms here who have multiple children, 0 to 20-something. What do we want to feel as we leave? What do we want to know? I already know now I'm going to check. I don't feel like I judge, but I'm really going to assess myself when I'm on Facebook or even just meeting somebody in person. I'm really going to try. I think we should all try to each one to stop that. And I feel like one person at a time, as cheesy as it sounds, I feel like we can make a difference. If we're all blogging positively, if we're all on the parenting team or wherever you are, and just that sense of moving out that lack of judgment. If we can do that as a group, I really feel like this is time well spent, don't you? Did I give you time to think of something? Okay,
Yeah, absolutely. Well, obviously, we should all be on Today Parenting. That's step one. But I feel like, I'm realizing up here, the worst judge in my life of me is me. Like, I can be so critical of myself, and I feel like that's something women do so much, that it's a place of insecurity that leads to judgment. And if I can just be kinder to myself, I think that gives me such a place of strength to be kinder to others.
That was very good. It was 4 sentences, but it was no.
Don't judge.
The same way with our diets, as with going to gym, as with parenting, as with life, we are all, to a man and woman on this entire planet, a work in progress. No one has it figured out. No one has all the right answers. No one ever has, and no one ever will. So if you can go to sleep at night knowing you did the best you can, you loved your kid with everything you've got in your heart, regardless of what any other human ever says, writes, or thinks about you, then guess what? You're doing it right. And who cares what anyone else thinks? That's mine.
Thank you, Nina.
On that. I think just to acknowledge our ordinariness, acknowledge our imperfections on a daily basis, and understand that the only moment that matters to your children is the moment that you are fully engaged and present with them.
I think I'm leaving here feeling like that's going to be the number one thing I tell myself too, is to just be as present as I can with my daughter, and also I'm going to leave here taking responsibility for what I put out into the world, what comes out of my mouth, the way that I judge people. It doesn't mean I'm not going to have judgmental thoughts at different times, but I'm going to make sure that I make myself responsible for what comes out of my mouth, and I'm going to be kind to myself too.
Oh gosh, how do I get the end?
You have a hard spot.
I think that one thing that I want to always remember is passion for being a mother and the experiences that every day brings, and all the memories, and being patient and, with my child, being patient with how I respond to another mother, being, with my reactions, and yeah, being self-fulfilled, so I'm not projecting onto him or anyone else, my own insecurities in the program.
So they've asked me a friendly request to have everyone come up here. After a wedding and you get that group shot, and everybody's like so happy. So we're going to try something like that, except not that. But if everybody can come up here, we're going to take a big group.
Actually, say goodbye to everybody.
Great. Thank you again.
Bye, everybody. Thanks for joining.